What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today, I'm excited to bring you a new knife. But before I do that, let me do a quick pocket check. In the pocket today is going to be the Cjrb knives in Cosi. Really liking this one a lot, and it has really started to break in quite nicely. Very much enjoying it. Another thing I just want to cover very quickly, I have actually for the first time just completely rearranged the shooting space, so everything is in a slightly different position. So if I jump too high or anything like that, I apologize. It'll take me just a little bit of time to get used to that. Let's go ahead and jump into this new knife. This one is going to be a brand new knife from CJRB. Really excited to jump into this one. It is a White Mountain Knives exclusive, and it is going to be not on the box. It is the J1912M BK. This is a made in China knife. Full disclosure, I have actually carried this knife for the last 3 to 4 days. I'm not exactly sure on that. As I mentioned in previous videos, I am changing the format. Once I've handled it, carried it, used it, got my thoughts and impressions, I will bring the unboxing so that you can see everything that comes with the knife in the box, and you still get that experience. And I think my light is up just a little too high here, guys. Let me turn it down real quick. Sorry about that. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. My apologies. As I was saying, that way you can see everything that comes in the box and you get to experience the unboxing, but I get to become more efficient as a creator and actually bring you a full review instead of just initial impressions and then tune back in for the full review later. This way I can do the review, and then if it's a knife that I end up keeping and I really like, you'll get a long-term review as well. So this one here is very interesting. This has a 3.53 inch AR RPM 9 blade steel. So their in-house blade steel, a very good performing blade steel from everything that I've seen and experienced myself. My particular version has 4.72 inch micarta handles, but they do also have a carbon fiber, which has the red pivot collar, whereas the black micarta comes with the blue. Overall length on this is 8.25 inches. So it is a full-size knife, and it is because of that long tip that it achieves that length. And the claimed weight is 4.23 ounces. Let's go ahead and check that weight and see where it comes in at. The other thing I like about the new position here is I don't have to fight the light anymore for the scale. So they claimed 4.23. It's actually coming in at 3.6. So I don't know if that's the difference. Usually the carbon fiber is a little bit lighter than the micarta. So I don't know if that's what the difference is. What I'll go ahead and do is run through my typical comparison knives. I'll go ahead and zoom in for this part for you all, so that way you have a frame of reference to the size and what that 8.25 inches really looks like. First up is going to be my Spyderco Yojimbo 2. This one here is the DLT trading exclusive, which has the 20 CV blade steel and the Desert Eagle sand colored scales, really nice. But as you can see here, very close in comparison. And I know I said I was going to zoom in, but I just can't resist bringing it in close so that you guys can just see overall length how much longer it is than the Yojimbo 2, because sometimes I just feel like on the table you don't get a really good sense. The other two. Next, we're going to go ahead and bring out the Spyderco Shaman. This one here is going to be more closely sized to the Feldspar. The full-size Feldspar runs really close in size to that Shaman, so hopefully that helps you if you're familiar with these two knives. We'll get these out of the way and go ahead and bring out my crossbar lock knives in hopes that you may have one of these. First up, we're going to bring out the Benchmade Bug Out. As you can see, Feldspar is just overall longer, and I'm going to start doing these heels so that you can just see the total length. I used to do pivot to pivot, but I think if I do it from the edge of the handle all the way up to the pivot, you can see how much more handle length you have like this. Next up, the SIG K320 from Hogue, or made by Hogue for SIGs. These are my two crossbar lock references, and as you can see, the Feldspar is actually longer than both because of that extremely long tip, and it does give you a little bit more handle length. Let's get these crossbar locks out of the way, and we'll go ahead and bring in the two very budget friendly knives. First is going to be the Cjrb Royal, aka the KU321. As you can see, this one is a sub 3-inch knife, and the Feldspar just totally dwarfs the Cjrb. Last but not least, my favorite made in the USA budget knife under $30. Actually, I got this for $28 recently. This is going to be the Buck 110 Plus, and as you can see, the Buck still a little bit longer, but a really good knife, and you should always have a Buck in your collection. Let's get these out of the way and go ahead and give you my thoughts and impressions about this knife. So there's a lot of good here, and the first thing that I'm going to start out with the good is actually going to be the price. This, to date, to my knowledge, is the most affordable and budget-friendly button lock on the market, and it's coming in at $59.99, and it is a White Mountain Knives exclusive, and I'll have that link down in the description for you so you can get there. At the time of this video, they are sold out of the black micarta with the blue pivot. They still have the carbon fiber with the red pivot collar, which is also very good looking. I actually was torn and not really sure which way to go, but I do have a little bit of a favoritism towards the blue. The handles and ergos are really good, just like I remember from the regular Feldspar. So very comfortable in hand, really nice hand position, plenty of grip, a little bit of extra left over. The pocket clip is a nicely done pocket clip that is reversible. It is the carry, but it is extremely stiff, and it is difficult to get this in and out of the pocket. It does catch a little bit, and I have had to two-hand it. So what I've been kind of doing is just working it a little bit, trying to get it to loosen up some of the tension, but it is extremely stiff. So it is, as you can see, it's leaving a little bit of an indentation on my finger, just trying to relieve some of the tension. But just keep that in mind. Your mileage may vary. It could very well be very different for you and your experience. Lanyard hole is exactly the same style as it was on the Feldspar. You have the drill through going all the way through. They didn't convert over to the bar, which I much prefer the bar because it's out of the way, and I feel like folks that have a lanyard are probably a little bit further and far between. I really just would like to see all manufacturers go to that, but I understand this is just a better reiteration, in my opinion, of what they've done here with the Feldspar versus if you looked at what Cjrb did with the Elementum. Now, the blade steel is the AR RPM 9, very good blade steel. I would probably put it somewhere in the N690 14C28N wheelhouse. I'm not saying that it's going to be as good or worse than those steels, but I'm thinking for the edge retention, corrosion resistance, and the performance that you get out of it, it'll be somewhere close to those. This is a very nice thin and slicey geometry, and I do have a piece of paper here that I wanted to bring over, but one thing that I wanted to point out, because I mentioned price, this is the second most cheapest button lock I know of out on the market today. Out of the more popular brands, there could be cheaper, and I apologize if I don't know who those are. You feel free to leave that in the comment for any viewer of this video in case they're interested, but this is a full $10 less. And the other thing, if you have a favorite YouTuber here, you can actually get a little bit of a discount because they all offer codes. So choose your YouTuber and use that to your advantage to get it for even less, which is very impressive. And I think they can do that because of the fact that they're using their in-house steel. They're not having to purchase and then make the blade. This paper stock is a very premium paper, so it's not receipt thin, but it is a thin paper. And as you can see, the edge on this is fantastic. It slices through the paper with very minimal resistance, which is really, really nice. And I did bring a piece of cardboard over here so that you guys can see just how it goes through the cardstock. So this is going to go through, has a fantastic edge, excellent geometry, and it just cuts through everything really well. I did want to demonstrate that because I was very impressed at this price point, the level of performance that you're getting from this blade. With it being a satin blade, it does show fingerprints, as you can see here, but it doesn't show the wear when you're cutting through the materials as easily, in my opinion. And it also, I believe, creates for a smoother action. Here's some of the other complaints that I have. One is the button lock actually sits flush. It is not recessed, so sometimes I interact with it inadvertently. If I don't have my hand in the correct position, you can see my thumb kind of hits it a little bit, and it does not unlock it, but it is a little unnerving when you hit it, and then you get that same rattle that I've mentioned in some other videos. I believe it was on the original, and I think the Cjrbs are all recessed. I don't think I had that issue with them. They weren't too proud. Having said that, though, when you get it into the locked position, it is just barely making contact with that button lock. So I'm not overly worried about it, but I did want to at least point that out. Now, for lefties, it's actually going to be really nice because as far as I can tell, when you're in the choked up position, it completely misses the button lock. Now, there are some other button locks that I do want to compare this to in a future video. I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to devote this to this particular button lock. The action, I believe the thumb studs, and I said this when I actually reviewed the Altus as well, I feel like the thumb stud really takes good advantage of the detent that you get with the button lock, and this is no exception. It is really snappy, a good size too. They did a nice job with the lock. And at first it was really stiff and I didn't get it to deploy very easily with the left hand. And one other thing that I did notice as well, when I go to reverse flick it, if your hand is, I don't know how I'm going to show this to you guys. If your hand is up on top or coming in at this angle, it won't come out. But if you come underneath and you kind of pinch grip with your thumb and your index finger and lock it down with the meteor finger on the pocket clip, you can get it to deploy. But I still cannot get this to deploy trying to do it like normal, in a normal position where you're kind of over top of the stub. I have to come underneath. I have to put my finger on the blade and kind of assist it to come out, which is really weird. The other thing that I noticed too with the detent track here, it's almost perfectly formed to the shape of the button lock. I think that also helps give it a really nice detent. This one's going to be a little bit harder to see because of the fact that it's kind of hidden in here with the tang of the blade. I'll try to hold it there with the light and zoom in for you guys so that you can see it, but it's more rounded than what I've noticed on the Protect and the Cjrbs. The Cjrbs have a little bit of a, let me see if I can, it has a little bit more of a ramp, right? So that it comes unengaged and engages a little bit smoother. Man, that is snappy. Listen to the sound on this thing. Crazy good. This really does have a good sound too, though. And the micarta is dampening, but I still think it has really good sound, really nice action. It did come centered. It did back off loose just a little bit. I experienced that sometimes from time to time. It's not very consistent with one particular brand or another. It's just sometimes it's not quite tight enough. And then when I had gotten it and it backed out a little, had a little bit of blade play, just a little bit of tightening of the pivot got that to lock up, and it is rock solid. It has no rock, no side to side, and it has no blade lash either. Very, very well done, especially for the money. Now, the other knives that I was going to recommend, as you saw, the Cogent is close in price on this and very similar in size. I think the other knife, which is a lot more expensive, over $70, is going to be the Cjrb Conspirator. And the reason that I like the Conspirator a little bit more, the micarta feels a little bit more well done. The ergos on these are both really good, but they both have pokey pocket clips. I know that I normally talk about how I like this style, but I think they ramped it up just a little bit too much and it feels a little pokey. Now again, this is nitpicking because it does not create a hot spot. It's not uncomfortable, but you can kind of feel it poking, but it is not as bad as the one on the Cjrb. The one on the Cjrb is actually worse. This one here is very, very soft feeling. This one here is more medium, like it's more pronounced. You can tell that it's there. I think the thin part here where my fingers land, having big hands, I have to kind of make myself push up and then kind of lock the knife in place, whereas the Conspirator for me is still the best budget button lock because the ergos, my hands just naturally nestle into this position. The other thing that I like as well is I like the fact that you get the flipper tab and the fuller, so you get dual means of deployments. But again, For under $60, you're getting a very nice model, and it feels very quality. It does have milling on the inside to help with that rate reduction. The liners are nestled and inset into the carbon fiber. The micarta. They do have the carbon fiber, and they are also nested into the scales as well. And the hardware, nothing really looks cheap. Everything's blacked out. I kind of wish they could have blacked out the standoffs, but I kind of understand why they, kept everything polished for the standoff so they could use it for all the knives, and then just got the all blacked out hardware. I think it's a very attractive knife. I think it's a nice EDC size, even for the length and the tip, and it does have a nice thick tip. So even though it comes out really far and is really pointy, it's going to hold up really, really well. Now, the disadvantage to this tip is you do have to get up really high to get any type of utility cuts going across. So if you're a utility user and you like to detail work on a flat surface, this might not be your knife. And again, lots and lots of fingerprints on there, but I think they have coated blades. So a coated blade, if it is stone washed, is probably going to be a little bit of a better option, but I just really liked the look of this, and I wanted to make sure that I got the smoothest example that I could for the carry. Since I've changed this format, I want to just make sure that I get a really good experience. Branding's pretty minimal. You get the serial number, you get the blade material in very small print up there. You do get the China probably displayed here back in close, so not too in your face for the branding. And then again, very small CJRB. None of this really offends me or bothers me. The only thing I think they probably could have done a little bit different with that CJRB is done the same thing that they did with the country of origin and just bring it in tight here and just have everything out here be really clean. Thumb studs feel really good, so using them is very comfortable. Again, really weird that you have to, I have to totally reposition for the reverse flick, and it's not like a fun reverse flick. It's a little awkward and uncomfortable. And let me know if you have this model and you're not experiencing that with the reverse flick. The weird thing, though, is that when I do the reverse flick left-handed, I can actually do it. I swear I can. Yeah, I can really do it quite snappy because my hand's in a more natural position. I think that has something to do with the resistance of being on the button lock side and probably pushing the knife up and away out of the position that it needs to be in order to deploy. I seriously can't, even if I try to do it with this finger, which I can get more leverage, I can't do it until I go underneath, and even then it's just not a very good feeling. I can very easily deploy with the middle finger and reverse flick it on the Cogent, and I think that's the Cogent, that's the Altus. I'm sorry guys, just keep misnaming everything today. I think that's part of the reason, is just the different approach. But again, if they do a small version of this and they do this Feldspar to compete, I feel like this is directly competing with the Cogent. And I think a small version would directly compete with the Altus. If they can do it at this price point, they're going to seriously have a hit on their hands. And for being their first attempt and taking their time with it and not rushing it out to market, unlike what Cjrb did with the Elementum button lock, which I do like that knife a lot. I love the ergos and the size way better than the original, but it was kind of only way to do it was a gravity knife style, which you can do with this one. You can totally do that same gravity knife style, and it's quite satisfying to do it that way, and it's very fidgety, almost like an axis lock would be. But it being the only means of deployment turned a lot of people off. I appreciate the fact that they took their time with this. They did a very nice example, feels very well built, and is very nice. The very last complaint I'm going to have about this, and I don't know if the carbon fiber is like this, but the micarta, whatever they're using to dye it black or whatever they got going on with that process, man, that thing stinks coming out of the box. But that is starting to go away. But I wanted to mention that because I was like, holy hell, this smells awful. Whatever dye they used, it really did stink. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, leave a like and consider subscribing. Don't forget to turn that notification bell to all if you did enjoy the video. That way you get alerts for any future content. You can pick and choose what you watch. You don't risk YouTube not notifying you whenever a new video drops. If you're already subscribed, thank you for your support. Be on the lookout. This will be coming out at the very end of April, and I have something coming up for a May giveaway, and we're really close to 1,000 subscribers. If we get there, I have something really cool lined up, but I'm holding it back until we get it so that I can say thank you to everybody for all their support. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Again, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, peace.